Hyunwoo Kim stepped off the transport shuttle and looked up at the massive crystal towers of Nexus Prime Academy. The buildings reached toward the purple sky like frozen lightning, their surfaces shimmering with alien technology he couldn't begin to understand. Other students moved past him in the busy courtyard, some floating, some walking on multiple legs, some that looked like living crystals catching the light of 3 different suns. He adjusted his simple Earth backpack and checked his class schedule on the small device they had given him. Advanced Predator Studies, Room 847C. Professor Veltar. His first real class as humanity's newest exchange student in the galaxy's most famous university. The hallways were wide and tall, built to accommodate species of every size and shape. Hyunwoo felt small walking past creatures that towered over him, but also noticed some aliens that barely reached his knee. Signs floated in the air, changing languages as different students walked by. When he approached, they switched to Korean, then English. Room 847C was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared in shadows, and the walls were lined with what looked like holding tanks and observation windows. Most were dark now, but Hyunwoo could see movement in some of them. Other students were already sitting at curved desks that adjusted to their body types automatically. A tall, thin creature with 6 arms and compound eyes like a giant insect stood at the front of the room. This had to be Professor Veltar. The professor's voice came through a translation device that made it sound oddly musical. "Welcome to Advanced Predator Studies," Professor Veltar said, gesturing with multiple arms. "I see we have our new exchange. Student from the Deathworld Earth, please introduce yourself." All eyes, and other sensory organs, turned to Hyunwoo. He stood up slowly, feeling nervous. "Hello everyone, I'm Hyunwoo Kim. I'm studying xenobiology, and I'm very excited to learn about creatures from other worlds." A crystalline being near, the front sparkled when she spoke. "I'm Nari, the class representative. We've heard many interesting stories about humans. Is it true your planet has creatures that inject poison through their teeth?" Hyunwoo nodded. "Snakes, yes, and spiders, too. Many animals on Earth are dangerous, but we've learned to live with them." An avian creature with bright blue feathers ruffled them in what seemed like disbelief. "I'm Taimin. How do you survive on such a world? Do you never go outside?" "We go outside all the time," Hyunwoo said with a small smile. "You just learn to be careful. My sister Minju works at a wildlife center. She takes care of injured animals, even the dangerous ones. Bears, wolves, wild cats." The alien students looked at each other with expressions Hyunwoo was learning to recognize as concern or disbelief. An aquatic student with smooth blue skin raised a webbed hand. "I'm so young. Your sister handles these bears and wolves? Are these small creatures?" "Bears can weigh 300 kilograms, Hyunwoo said. "Wolves hunt in packs and have very sharp teeth. But Minju has been trained to work with them safely. She says understanding their behavior is the most important thing." Professor Veltar's compound eyes glittered with interest. "Understanding behavior, yes. This brings us to today's lesson." The professor touched a control panel, and the room's lights dimmed. "In this class, you will study the most dangerous predators from across the galaxy. You will learn their hunting methods, their social structures, and most importantly, how to stay safe around them." The walls came alive with holographic displays, showing creatures that made Hyunwoo's breath catch. Things with too many teeth, others with claws like swords, some that seemed to be made of living shadow. The alien students watched with fascination, but also with obvious fear. "These specimens," Professor Veltar continued, "are kept in the most advanced containment systems in the galaxy. Multiple energy barriers, sedation fields, remote handling systems, and emergency protocols ensure complete safety. No student will ever come into direct contact with any dangerous creature." Hyunwoo looked at the elaborate safety systems with curiosity. The technology was amazing, but it seemed like a lot of equipment to study animals. On Earth, researchers worked much more directly with wildlife, even dangerous species. His grandfather Seung-ho had been a park ranger, and had stories of tracking bears and helping injured deer. It was dangerous work, but people did it. Professor, Hyunwoo raised his hand. What happens if the containment fails? The insectoid, Professor's antennae twitched. Impossible. These systems have 17 backup protocols. In the unlikely event of any malfunction, automated systems will handle the situation while students evacuate to safe zones. Taemin's feathers ruffled again. Why would you ask such a thing? Are humans not concerned with safety? We are, Hyunwoo said carefully. But on Earth, we prepare for things to go wrong. Animals don't always behave the way we expect them to. Your world has made you paranoid, Taemin said with what sounded like disapproval. Civilized beings use technology to eliminate risk. Hyunwoo wanted to explain that it wasn't paranoia, just practical thinking, but he could see he was making the other students uncomfortable. Instead, he stayed quiet and listened as Professor Veltar began explaining the feeding habits of something called a Corvinstalker. The lesson continued with videos and holographic models of predators from dozens of worlds. Some were familiar in shape, cat-like or wolf-like, while others were completely alien. The professor explained their hunting methods, social structures, and the technology used to study them safely. A's class ended. Nari approached Hyunwoo's desk. Her crystalline body chimed softly as she moved. Don't mind Taemin, she said. Many of us are curious about Deathworld species. Your survival instincts might be valuable here. I hope so, Hyunwoo said, packing his simple notebook. Around him, other students stored data in crystal matrices and floating holographic storage devices. I want to learn as much as I can. Perhaps we can study together sometime, So Young said, her aquatic features showing what he hoped was friendliness. I'd like to hear more about these Earth predators. Walking back to his dormitory, Hyunwoo thought about his first class. The alien students seemed nice, but they viewed danger very differently than humans did. Their technology could probably handle any situation, but something in his gut told him that relying completely on machines might not always be the best idea. He thought of Minju at her wildlife center, working with animals that could easily kill her if she made the wrong move. She didn't have energy barriers or sedation fields. She had knowledge, experience, and respect for the creatures she worked with. Maybe that was something he could share with his new classmates. 2 weeks had passed since Hyunwoo's first day at the academy. He was getting used to the routine of classes, though he still felt like an outsider. The other students were friendly enough, but they often looked at him like he was some kind of dangerous curiosity. Today, S Advanced Predator Studies class was different. Professor Veltar had announced they would be observing a live specimen for the first time. The excitement in the room was obvious, though Hyunwoo noticed it was mixed with nervous energy from his classmates. Before we begin, Professor Veltar said, adjusting multiple control panels with different hands, I want to review safety procedures one more time. Taemin's blue feathers were particularly bright today. He had been questioning Hyunwoo more often lately, and his comments were getting sharper. Professor, is it wise to have a Deathworlder present for this exercise? Humans might react unpredictably to danger. Several students turned to look at Hyunwoo, who felt his face getting warm. I'll follow all the same protocols as everyone else, he said quietly. Will you, though? Taemin's voice carried a challenge. Your species evolved on a world where everything tries to kill you. How do we know you won't panic or do something reckless? Nari's crystalline form chimed softly, and what Hyunwoo had learned was her version of clearing her throat. Taemin, that's not fair. Hyunwoo has been nothing but careful in all our classes. Careful by Deathworld standards, Taemin replied. Which might not be careful enough for civilized beings. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. Getting angry wouldn't help anything. You're right that Earth is dangerous, he said. We have plants that can kill you if you touch them. Storms that can destroy entire cities. Animals that hunt humans. But that's exactly why we learn to be careful. So Young's large, dark eyes blinked slowly. What do you mean? We learn to read warning signs, Hyunwoo explained. To understand animal behavior. To prepare for things going wrong. My grandfather always said the most dangerous situation is when you think you're completely safe. Professor Veltar's compound eyes focused on Hyunwoo with new interest. Explain this philosophy. Hyunwoo thought for a moment. On Earth we have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We use safety equipment, but we also train people to handle emergencies. My sister Minju doesn't just rely on tranquilizer guns and cages. She knows how different animals move, how they show fear or aggression, how to calm them down. Your sister studies animal psychology? Professor Veltar asked. Not formally. But she understands that every animal is an individual. Technology helps, but sometimes you need to read the situation and adapt. Hyunwoo could see some students looking skeptical. For example, if a bear is protecting her cubs, you act differently than if she's just curious about food. Taemin's feathers ruffled with apparent annoyance. This is exactly what I mean. Primitive thinking. Why would you need to read an animal when you can simply scan it, analyze its brain chemistry, and predict its behavior with 99.7% accuracy? What about the other 0.3%? Hyunwoo asked. The question seemed to surprise everyone. Professor Veltar's antennae twitched thoughtfully. An interesting point. Now let us begin today's observation. The professor activated a series of controls, and one of the containment units lit up. Inside was a creature about the size of a large dog, but with 6 legs and silver fur that seemed to shift color in the light. Its face was almost cat-like, with large eyes and small pointed ears. This is a Corvin stalker, Professor Veltar announced. Native to the low-gravity moon of Corvin 7, they are pack hunters, highly intelligent, and capable of limited camouflage. The specimen is sedated and contained within 3 separate energy barriers. The creature did look sleepy, moving slowly around its enclosure. It sniffed at the walls and occasionally looked out at the students with what seemed like mild curiosity. Beautiful, Nari whispered, her crystalline form catching the light from the enclosure. So-Young leaned forward in her specially designed water chair. How do they hunt in packs? Professor Veltar began explaining the social structure of Corvin, stalkers using holographic displays to show hunting behaviors. Hyunwoo watched the actual creature as much as the displays. Something about its movement seemed different from what the professor was describing. Then, alarms started blaring. Red. Lights flashed throughout the room as automated voices announced in multiple languages, containment breach, primary barrier failure, initiating emergency protocols. The Corvin stalker was suddenly much more alert. The silver fur was shifting through different colors rapidly, and its movements had become quick and jerky. It wasn't trying to escape. It was pressed against the back wall of its enclosure, fur standing on end. All students evacuate immediately, Professor Veltar commanded, his multiple arms working frantically at control panels. Secondary barriers are stable, but protocol requires full evacuation. The alien students began moving quickly toward the exits, but in an orderly fashion. Their movements were efficient but calm, exactly what their training had taught them to do. Hyunwoo started to follow, then stopped. The Corvin stalker wasn't acting aggressive at all. Its body language reminded him of a scared cat, ears back, fur up, pressed against the wall as far from the students as possible. The color changes looked like some kind of stress response. "Professor," he called out, but Veltar was focused on the control panels and didn't hear him over the alarms. The automated systems were trying to re-establish the primary barrier, but something was interfering. Bright energy discharges sparked around the containment unit, and the Corvin stalker flinched each time they happened. Hyunwoo looked at the creature's behavior and felt a familiar recognition. This wasn't an aggressive predator looking for a chance to attack. This was a frightened animal that wanted to hide and be left alone. The sparking energy fields were making it more scared, not more dangerous. But everyone else had evacuated according to protocol. The automated systems would handle the situation. That was what civilized beings did. Hyunwoo looked toward the exit, then back at the scared creature pressing itself against the wall. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. Sometimes, boy, technology fails. When it does, you need to understand what you're really dealing with. The evacuation alarm was deafening. Red emergency lights painted the classroom in an angry glow as automated systems tried desperately to restore the containment field. Professor Veltar's voice carried over the noise, sharp with authority and fear. "Student Kim, you must evacuate immediately. Security forces are en route." But Hyunwoo wasn't moving toward the exit. Instead, he was walking slowly toward the malfunctioning containment unit, his movements careful and deliberate. The Corvin stalker inside was still pressed against the far wall, its silver fur cycling through rapid color changes that screamed panic to anyone who knew how to read animal body language. "Hyunwoo, no." Nari's crystalline voice rang out from the emergency doorway. "The protocols exist for a reason." Through the transparent emergency barriers that had sealed the exits, Hyunwoo could see his classmates watching in horror. Taemin's feathers were standing straight up, and So-young was pressed against her water chair like she was trying to disappear into it. The automated systems were making things worse. Each time they tried to re-establish the primary containment field, energy discharges sparked around the enclosure. The Corvin stalker flinched and cowered with every flash, its fur color shifting faster and faster. Hyun-woo stopped about 3 meters from the enclosure. The secondary barriers were still holding, but they flickered occasionally. If those failed too, there would be nothing between him and the creature except air. "Student Kim." Professor Veltar's voice was nearly hysterical. "Return to the evacuation zone. You are violating every safety protocol." Instead of answering, Hyunwoo sat down on the floor. Cross-legged, relaxed, hands resting loosely on his knees. He made himself as small and non-threatening as possible, then began to speak in a low, steady voice. "Hey there, little one," he said softly, though he knew the creature couldn't understand his words. "You're scared, aren't you? All these lights, and sounds and strange smells." The Corvin stalker's large eyes focused on him for the first time since the emergency began. Its color shifting slowed slightly, cycling through what looked like confused grays and blues instead of the rapid panic colors from before. Hyun-woo kept his voice calm and steady, remembering everything his grandfather had taught him about dealing with frightened animals. "Don't stare directly. Don't make sudden movements. Let them get used to your presence. I know you're not dangerous," he continued. "You're just scared and want to go home. These machines don't understand that." Behind him, he could hear Professor Veltar frantically communicating with security forces. Heavy footsteps were approaching the classroom, probably armed guards with capture equipment. That would make everything worse. The secondary barriers flickered again, and for just a moment they went completely transparent. The Corvin stalker took a cautious step forward, then stopped, watching Hyunwoo carefully. "That's right," Hyunwoo said, still not looking directly at the creature. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not even going to try to catch you." The automated systems chose that moment to attempt another containment field restart. Energy crackled around the enclosure, and the Corvin stalker jumped backward with a distressed sound that was almost like a whimper. "Turn off the automated systems," Hyunwoo called out, finally raising his voice. "They're making it more frightened." "Absolutely not," Professor Veltar replied. "Those systems are the only thing protecting you. They're the thing that's scaring." "It," Hyunwoo said firmly. "Look at its body language. It's not aggressive, it's terrified." Through the emergency barriers, he could see his classmates pressed against the walls, watching in fascination and horror. Taemin was talking rapidly to what looked like a communication device, probably calling for more security. The heavy footsteps were getting closer. Security Chief Morden appeared in the doorway, a massive armor-plated creature with multiple weapons visible on his belt. The Krojan's voice was like grinding rocks when he spoke. "Student, move away from the containment area immediately. We will handle the situation." "Wait," Hyunwoo said, holding up one hand while keeping his eyes on the Corvin stalker. "Give me 2 minutes. It's starting to calm down." It was true. The creature's color cycling had slowed to gentle blues and greens. It was still pressed against the wall, but its posture was less rigid. Most importantly, it was watching Hyunwoo with curiosity instead of fear. 2 minutes for what? Security Chief Mordan demanded. To show it that we're not a threat, Hyunwoo said. Then it will go back into its enclosure voluntarily. The silence that followed this statement was so complete that even the alarm seemed quieter. Voluntarily? Professor Veltar's voice cracked with disbelief. It's a predator, not a reasoning being. It's an intelligent social animal, Hyunwoo corrected gently. You said so yourself. It understands body language and social cues. Right now it thinks we're all threats because of the noise and the energy weapons. The secondary barriers flickered again, and this time they didn't come back up. The Corvin stalker was now separated from Hyunwoo by nothing but 3 meters of empty air. His classmates gasped. Someone, probably Taemin, made a sound like a strangled squawk. The Corvin stalker took another cautious step forward. Hyun-Woo remained perfectly still, continuing to speak in low, soothing tones. That's right. I'm not dangerous. Just a weird-looking creature sitting on the floor talking to himself. The creature tilted its head, studying him. Its fur was now a curious pattern of greens and golds, colors that seemed much more positive than the panic grays from before. Student Kim, Security Chief Mordan's voice was carefully controlled. If you move suddenly, I will be forced to use lethal force to protect you. Don't, Hyunwoo said quietly. It's working. The Corvin stalker took another step forward, then another. It was close enough now that Hyunwoo could see the individual patterns in its fur, could smell its alien scent. The creature lowered its head and sniffed in his direction. Then, to everyone's amazement, it sat down. Not crouched ready to spring, not tense with predatory focus. It sat the way a curious dog might sit when meeting a new person, alert but relaxed, interested but not threatened. Hello to you too, Hyunwoo said softly, finally allowing himself a small smile. The creature's tail, which had been tucked tight against its body, relaxed and began to move in what might have been the Corvin equivalent of a gentle wag. The Academy's main conference room had never seen a meeting quite like this one. Professor Veltar sat at one end of the long table, his 6 arms gesturing nervously as he spoke. Security Chief Mordan loomed nearby, his armored bulk making the furniture look tiny. Dean Kyron floated at the head of the table, her ethereal form shifting between translucent colors as she processed what she had heard. Hyun-Woo sat in the middle of it all, feeling smaller than ever. The past 3 hours had been a blur of questions, reports, and barely controlled panic from Academy officials. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Dean Kyron said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. You deliberately violated every safety protocol we have, approached a dangerous predator without protection, and somehow convinced it to return to containment voluntarily. Yes, ma'am, Hyunwoo said, but it wasn't really dangerous, it was just scared and confused. Security Chief Mordan's deep voice rumbled through the room. Scared predators are often the most dangerous kind. They attack anything they perceive as a threat. That's exactly why I sat down and stayed calm, Hyunwoo explained for what felt like the 10th time. I made sure it didn't perceive me as a threat. Professor Veltar's compound eyes glittered with something between fascination and fear. But how could you know it wouldn't attack? Our behavioral prediction system showed a 73% chance of aggressive response if containment failed. Hyunwoo thought carefully before answering. On Earth, we learned to read animal body language from childhood. The Corvin stalker's posture, the way it moved, the color changes in its fur. Everything was saying scared, not aggressive. Color changes? Dean Kyron leaned forward, suddenly interested. Our sensors recorded the chromatic shifts, but we classified them as camouflage attempts. No, they were emotional responses, Hyunwoo said with growing confidence. Like how some Earth animals' fur stands up when they're frightened, or how their tails move differently when they're curious versus afraid. Through the conference room's large windows, Hyunwoo could see students gathering in small groups on the campus grounds below. Word of the incident had spread quickly, and he could feel their curious stares whenever he walked between buildings. Soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Dean Kyron gestured. and a holographic display appeared showing a human woman in a white coat. She was inside what looked like an animal enclosure, with a large brown, furry creature visible. Behind her, "This is Dr. Hai-Jin Lee from Earth's Wildlife Research Institute," Dean Kyron announced. "I asked her to join our discussion." "Hello, everyone," Dr. Lee said cheerfully. The large animal behind her moved closer, and Hyunwoo realized it was a brown bear, one of Earth's most dangerous predators. "I understand you've had an interesting experience with one of your students." Professor Veltar's antennae twitched nervously. "Dr. Lee, is that creature behind you secure?" Dr. Lee glanced over her shoulder and smiled. "Oh, this is Jiho. He's a rescue bear who was injured as a cub. He's fully grown now, about 200 kilograms, but he's quite gentle." She reached back and scratched behind the bear's ear. The massive predator leaned into her touch like an enormous dog dot. The silence in the conference room was deafening. "You're touching it," Security Chief Mordan said, his voice strangled. "Bears are actually quite social animals," Dr. Lee explained casually. "Jiho knows me well, and I understand his moods and signals. We have a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding." Hyunwoo felt a surge of pride in his species. "That's what I was trying to explain. My sister Minju works with animals like Jiho every day." Dean Kyron's form shifted to deeper colors. "Dr. Lee, how is this possible? Our records indicate that Earth bears are extremely dangerous predators." "They can be," Dr. Lee agreed. "But danger isn't the same as aggression. Most animal attacks happen because of fear, confusion, or protecting young. If you understand their signals and respect their boundaries, you can work safely with even large predators." Professor Veltar leaned forward, all 6 arms gesturing at once. "But surely you use advanced containment systems, energy barriers, automated safety protocols?" Dr. Lee laughed. "We use some safety equipment, of course. But our most important tool is knowledge. Understanding each animal as an individual. Technology fails sometimes. Understanding doesn't." The words hit the room like a physical force. These aliens had built their entire civilization around the idea that technology could solve any problem, eliminate any risk. The concept that knowledge and intuition might be more reliable was clearly revolutionary. "Student Kim," Dean Kyron said slowly, "your actions today violated numerous regulations. However, the results suggest that your species may have insights that our technology cannot provide." Hyunwoo felt his heart rate increase. Was he about to be expelled? "Therefore," the dean continued, "I am establishing a new research program. We will study how Deathworld survival instincts might complement our existing safety systems." Relief flooded through Hyunwoo so strongly that he felt dizzy. "Additionally," Professor Veltar added, his voice now excited rather than nervous, "I would like to request that you assist in developing new protocols for live animal observation. Your intuitive understanding of predator behavior could revolutionize our field studies." On the holographic display, Dr. Lee nodded approvingly. "Excellent. I'd be happy to provide consultation on Earth techniques for animal behavior analysis." Security. Chief Mordan, who had been silent for several minutes, finally spoke. "I still don't like it. Safety protocols exist for a reason." "You're absolutely right," Hyunwoo said quickly. "I'm not saying we should ignore safety equipment. I'm saying we should understand what we're protecting ourselves from. The Corvin stalker wasn't trying to escape or attack. It just wanted to feel safe." Dean Kyron's form brightened. "An interesting distinction. Perhaps we have been so focused on containing these creatures that we forgot to consider their emotional states." As the meeting ended, Hyunwoo walked back toward his dormitory with mixed feelings. He wasn't in trouble, which was a relief. But he also knew that word of today's events would spread throughout the academy. Some students would be impressed. Others would think he was reckless. His communication device chimed with a message from Nari. "Emergency study session tonight. Everyone wants to hear how you knew the Corvin stalker wasn't dangerous. Bring snacks." Despite everything, Hyunwoo smiled. Maybe being the Deathworlder wouldn't be such a bad thing after all. 6 months had passed since the Corvin stalker incident, and Nexus Prime Academy looked very different to Hyunwoo now. The crystal towers still reached toward the alien sky, but he no longer felt lost among them. Students from dozens of species nodded to him in the halls, and some even sought him out for advice on their xenobiology projects. Today was special. The Academy was hosting its first ever integrated species field study, a research expedition that combined advanced alien technology with what they now called Deathworld intuition. Hyunwoo was co-leading the mission alongside Professor Veltar, something that would have been unthinkable when he first arrived. The expedition team gathered in the launch bay, checking equipment and reviewing mission parameters. Hyunwoo smiled as he watched Taemin carefully adjusting a new piece of gear, a behavioral analysis scanner that had been designed based on human observation techniques. The proud avian had become one of Hyunwoo's strongest supporters after seeing how effective the new methods could be. The energy readings look stable, Nari reported, her crystalline form refracting light from multiple scanner displays. Target: Moon's atmosphere is suitable for all species on the team. So-young floated in her mobile water suit, reviewing footage from their destination. The pack hunters we're studying are similar to the Corvin stalker but larger and more social. Previous expeditions could only observe them from orbit. Previous expeditions didn't have a Deathworlder, said Jin-A, one of 3 new human exchange students who had arrived after word of the program's success spread. She grinned at Hyunwoo. No pressure or anything. The transport shuttle was larger than anything Hyunwoo had ridden in during his first weeks at the Academy. This one was equipped with advanced observation equipment, emergency medical facilities, and, at his suggestion, simple backup systems that would work even if the high-tech gear failed. As they lifted off from the Academy, Professor Veltar moved to sit beside Hyunwoo. The insectoid professor had changed a lot over the past months. He still used all his advanced equipment, but now he also asked questions like, what does their body language tell us? And how would a frightened animal behave in this situation? Are you nervous? Professor Veltar asked, his compound eyes focused on the moon growing larger in the viewport. A little, Hyunwoo admitted. This is the first time we're studying animals in their natural environment instead of in containment. There are more variables to consider. Variables that technology cannot predict, the professor mused. 6 months ago, I would have called that terrifying. Now I find it exciting. The moon's surface was covered in dense silver forests under a pale blue sky. Their target area was a clearing near a water source where the pack hunters, called lunar wolves by the research team, were known to gather. The shuttle landed softly on a rocky outcrop overlooking the clearing. Through the observation windows, they could see movement in the forest below. Sleek, 4-legged creatures about the size of earth wolves moved between the silver trees, their dark fur helping them blend with the shadows. Scanning now, Taemin announced, his blue feathers bright with concentration. I'm reading 17 individuals. Pack structure appears to be... Wait. He looked up from his instruments with confusion. The behavioral prediction model says they should be aggressive toward intruders, but their body language suggests curiosity rather than hostility. Hyunwoo smiled. Teaching his alien classmates to read animal behavior had been one of the most rewarding experiences of his time at the Academy. What specific signs are you seeing? Their tails are up but relaxed, ears forward, and they're approaching in a loose group rather than a hunting formation, Taemin reported proudly. Classic exploratory behavior just like you taught us. Professor Veltar activated the external observation screens. The pack was indeed moving closer to their landing site, but their movement was unhurried and casual. Several of the creatures sat down at the edge of the clearing, simply watching the strange vehicle that had appeared in their territory. On Earth, wolves would behave similarly, Hyunwoo explained to the newer team members. They're curious about us but not threatened. We're too big to be prey and we haven't made any aggressive moves. Jin-A pulled up video feeds from her equipment. Should we establish a perimeter? Set up deterrent fields? Let's wait and observe, Hyunwoo suggested. Sometimes the best way to study animals is to let them get used to your presence first. For the next 2 hours, they simply watched. The lunar wolves went about their normal activities, playing, grooming each other, resting in the sun. Occasionally, one would look toward the shuttle with mild interest, but none seemed alarmed. "This is incredible," So Young whispered, recording everything through her watersuit's cameras. Previous expeditions reported that these creatures were impossible to observe closely. They would flee or become aggressive whenever research vessels approached. Previous expeditions probably used different landing procedures, Hyun-woo said. Loud engines, bright lights, immediate deployment of scanning equipment, that would make any animal nervous. Nari's crystalline form chimed thoughtfully. "We're learning more about their natural behavior in one afternoon than previous teams learned in months of long-distance observation." As the local sun began to set, something extraordinary happened. 3 of the younger lunar wolves approached the shuttle directly. They sniffed around the landing struts, investigated the external equipment, and then, to everyone's amazement, settled down to rest in the shuttle's shadow. "They've accepted us as part of their environment," Professor Veltar said in wonder. "We're not threats or prey, we're just there." "Like a large, strange tree," Hyun-woo agreed. "Something interesting but not dangerous." Taemin's feathers rustled with excitement. "The pack hierarchy is much more complex than our models predicted, and their communication involves color changes in their eyes that our sensors almost missed. As night fell on the alien moon, the research team prepared to return to the academy. The lunar wolves watched their departure with the same calm curiosity they had shown at arrival. Some of the younger ones even followed the shuttle for a short distance before returning to their pack dot. During the flight back to Nexus Prime, the team reviewed their findings. They had collected more behavioral data in one day than previous expeditions had gathered in months. More importantly, they had observed natural behaviors that had never been recorded before. "This changes everything," Professor Veltar said, reviewing the data streams. "When animals aren't stressed by intrusive observation methods, their true behaviors emerge." Back at the academy, Hyun-woo found himself in his dormitory room video calling home for the first time in weeks. His sister Minju appeared on the small screen, and behind her he could see the familiar sight of her wildlife rehabilitation center. "You look happy," she said with a smile. "How's the galaxy's most famous Deathworlder doing?" "Good," Hyun-woo said, then laughed. "Really good, actually. Remember how you always said that understanding animals was more important than having the best equipment?" "Of course. Why?" "I think I'm finally starting to prove that to some very smart aliens." On the screen behind Minju, Hyun-woo could see her current patient, a young deer with an injured leg. She was checking its bandages while it stood calmly beside her, completely trusting despite being a prey animal around a potential predator. "That's the real secret, isn't it?" he said. "Respect and understanding work better than fear and control." Minju nodded, gently stroking the deer's neck. "Always have, little brother. I'm proud of you for teaching that to the stars." As the call ended, Hyun-woo looked out his window at the alien campus. Tomorrow, there would be new classes where he would help other students learn to read animal behavior. Next week, another expedition to study creatures that had never been observed up close. Next month, a conference where researchers from across the galaxy would come to learn about Deathworld methods. The young human from the dangerous world of Earth had found his place among the stars, not by being the strongest or the smartest, but by understanding something that advanced technology couldn't replicate, that every living creature, no matter how alien, had feelings, fears, and needs that could be understood with patience and respect. Outside his window, 3 moons rose over the Academy's crystal towers, and Hyun-woo smiled. The galaxy was full of wonders, and he was just getting started exploring them.